Welcome to the Rock is George podcast. I'm your host, George Dionne, and this is episode 118. Thank you for tuning in. Be sure to hit like, subscribe, or follow on the platform that you're listening to us on. Also, check out my work at theloudest.com on the planet, knac.com, where you'll find exclusive interviews, album reviews, live show reviews, and more. Unavailable anywhere else. My guest for this episode is frontman SPEED VINCENT of the band Silvertung. They have a brand new single out called Integrity. Just last year, Silvertung released a compilation called Emerge that collected the best of their works up until this point. Integrity marks a shift for the band in its membership and sort of its music tone. But I'm going to let Speed tell you himself. So here's frontman SPEED VINCENT of the band Silvertung. If I knew absolutely nothing about Silvertung, how would you describe the band's music to me?
Metal with a groove.
Fair enough. I'd have to agree with that. I know you guys have been around for about 10 years now. How did the band originally get together?
It was actually an idea that I had for a while, and I kept trying to put it together. Then I would take it apart, put it back together, because I couldn't find a direction or the musicians that I wanted to go in a certain direction. And so I joined other bands to kind of get my feet wet and learn to understand how things worked, should I say. So then when I formed Silvertung, I found musicians that had the same drive. And then we were rehearsing in my uncle's garage. I think it might have been his basement / garage, because when he went down the steps, it was kind of the garage as well. It was free. That's what mattered to me. So we were sitting around and we were just trying to come up with a name for the band. And I was like, well, as long as we're heavy and we have a groove to us. And they're like, well, why do you got to be heavy? And I'm like, I don't know. That's just kind of what I like. And everybody else was agreeing with me. And so it took weeks. And we were just getting together to rehearse and learn some new songs and write some new music. And I was sitting around, we were just talking about names, and I'm sitting there going through my uncle's DVDs, and I came across some porno flicks. And jokingly, I said, I got the name of the band. And everybody's like, oh, cool, what is it? And I said, Silvertung, and I started laughing. And everybody just kind of like looked at me, and they were like, wait a minute, dude, that's really cool. I'm like, it is? So we agreed on it. And then I looked at the spelling of it, and I was like, the spelling just is not cutting it for me. So we took out the original spelling of tongue, made it one word, Silver, T-U-N-G. So that looked a lot better for me. So I was like, yeah, okay, now I like it. So from there, progress started to happen. And then, of course, I've been through quite a few members now, which is probably the hardest thing for us. Growing the band was easy. It's keeping the members and keeping everyone level-headed and keeping everyone's focus on the same goals. That's always a challenge.
And it's a good thing your uncle didn't have a copy of Deep Throat.
Yeah, because we would have been called Deep Throat. Oh, that is so awesome.
Silvertung, is it true you almost called it quits during the pandemic?
Yeah. During the pandemic, things just kind of went south. Prior to that, we were climbing the ladder so quickly. We had 3 months of touring in front of us. There were calls coming in, possibly going overseas. Our music was becoming, I don't want to call it a household name, but it was starting to generate a lot of traction. And a ton of people were starting to get to know who we were. And then, of course, one by one, each one of our shows were getting canceled due to regulations and everything. So I was like, wow, man, what are we going to do? So I tried to gather the troops and hey, man, let's just keep going and we'll do some online stuff and we'll do some acoustic stuff. We just released an acoustic album a few years back. We could play that. We could get more interaction with the fans, because the fans are going to need us in this down point in time. And no one saw it the way I saw it. So one by one, each member walked away saying, this is life is going to change now. And I'm like, no, 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 man, this is temporary. This is not good. And I've never gone through a pandemic in my life. I didn't even know what a pandemic was until we hit it. So I was just like, no, I'm telling you, I don't think this is going to be the way. Life isn't going to change. I mean, it has, life has changed a little. So at that point in time, I was in the middle of going, man, this is going to be the hardest decision I've ever made in my life. And I contemplated for about 2 weeks. I made a lot of phone calls to different managers that I knew, to different people in the industry, what's going on with the industry. And the industry was pretty much done. We had stopped. Everything, all the motions had completely stopped for everyone that I was speaking to. So after about probably a dozen different conversations with people in the industry, I sat back and I was like, well, it's either going to be go in all or just let it all go. And I decided, no, I'm not done. I'm not going to let a pandemic, I'm not going to let regulations, I'm not going to let people walking away from me decide that I'm done. And I'm not done. And I'm glad I made those decisions because there is so much more to do. So that's kind of where we come today now. It's like I started putting out ads, and it took a long time because everybody was still worried about COVID and everything, and I get that. COVID's a real thing. It really happened. It's oddly enough that the flu took a vacation, but I'll leave that one go. So one by one, I started getting interviews going with different musicians, and it took a while. It took about a year and a half to like vet people and get them in here, and just because they had to understand, this isn't a band that's going to sit in the basement and we're going to write music and we're just going to put out music. No, we're going to tour. And I had to have guys that wanted that. And I did. I'm very, very fortunate to find people that have the same mindset now. So it was really good. So yeah, but we almost called it quits. It did towards the end of the pandemic.
And now you have a new single out. It's called Integrity. If you want to talk a little bit about the meaning of the song.
Well, the meaning of the song comes from those very incidents that happen, because a lot of people try to tell me, maybe this is it. Maybe you just, go off and do whatever you want to do. And I mean, there was some little harsher words than that. I won't put out the real harsh words. You can't do this, you can't do that. And I'm like, don't tell me what I can't and can do. I know what I can do. But a lot of people were on that fence of going, maybe this is, maybe it's time to hang it up. And I'm like, 10 years in, no, we're still brand new. And I started looking around and watching people, and I'm watching my friends and family members, and people were like divided from each other. And I'm like, what is going on? So things got really strange for a while. And I just started writing my music. I kind of buried my head in the sand for a while and just started writing music. And when the guys got together, the new guitar player, Marchetti, he come in and he had this really cool riff that just he kept playing it every time. It was like his warm-up thing, And I was like, man, what is that? And he said, I don't know. It's just something I'm messing around with. So we got together on it. And then my feelings started to come out on paper, which is normally what happens for me, because I can't write about some mystic beast that's going to come and take over the world or something, or it's got to be something that I've actually dealt with. I feel more validated that way. Or something that one of my friends may have dealt with, or a family member. So I know this is like a long story. I'm taking you down this, but this is kind of how everything came about. So watching a lot of this going on, I realized so many things just by watching like really close family members, like not even talking to each other anymore. And I'm like, man, what is going on? So I started digging into a lot of things. And one thing that really came true to me was no matter what people say and do to you, because you can give someone your respect, your trust, your love, and in one little incident, all that can be taken away. Now, what cannot be taken away is your reaction to all that. And that's your integrity. If you choose to go south with all that, instead of having that positivity kind of kick you in the butt and make you realize, hey, things happen, but how do you react to it? So all of those things can be taken away by someone else doing something to you. The thing that can't be taken away is your integrity, because your integrity is based on how you respond to those things. And that's how I looked at everything that happened around me. People, the phone calls that I made, the band walking away. My integrity was, I'm going to stay positive about this. I'm going to make this happen. So that's basically where integrity came from.
Is this single going to lead to an EP release or a full album down the road?
Fingers crossed. That is our biggest goal right now. We are working towards that for 2024. We want to release a few singles first, get it out there, because things have slightly changed in our sound and our direction. So we want to put some singles out there and kind of get the bosses, which are the fans. We want to get the bosses. We want to get their input. So, but the big goal is to release either an EP or a full length in 2024.
In 2022, you released Emerge, which I believe is a compilation album. Was that a way to put a stamp on the old version of Silvertongue?
Exactly. Perfect. No one else has ever caught that but you. So congratulations on that. But that's what that was. It was like, here was our moment. Now we're going to move from there. So, and we did it for a bunch of reasons. People have been asking for one of our prior releases was being upheld by contractual situation. And then when we finally got it back, it was like, well, let's not just release something else that has already been out there. Let's put something together to show the band has emerged from this, and now you're going to see what the band is going to become. And so we did that, and we actually put it on vinyl. We never done vinyl. I did not understand vinyl. That was not my era. So now I understand vinyl and how not just vintage it is, but the pride that was put into something like that. And the sound that comes off of vinyl, completely different than digital, completely different. So kudos to the vinyl people, because that is a sound that is not going to be duplicated very easily. Digital will not do it. I love digital, but vinyl is amazing. But yes, Emerge was the whole purpose of Emerge was to say, here's what we've done. This is going to be the past, but we are emerging into this.
You released an EP in 2021 called But at What Cost? It was a conceptual EP. Is that the way you see yourself doing albums in the future, having a concept and building around it? Or, like you said earlier, you write about things you're going through?
I don't know if we're going to do another concept album. And we didn't sit down to write that as a concept. We figured out that it was a concept after the fact. After we sat down and we listened to the songs back to back, and we placed them to be a concept album. It was really just a bunch of songs that we had put together, seeing things coming down the pipe, because I've never been a political person. I've never really been into any of that. But being a member of society, when you start looking around and you start asking questions, sometimes you don't get the answers that you want. And then you start going, nah, this ain't true. And then you realize things are true. So I started just writing. I was just writing like a madman at that point in time. And it ended up being a concept by the way we put it together. We didn't realize we were telling a story until after we got out of the studio and we're like, okay, let's look at the arrangement of these songs. So then we started putting them together. And I was like, well, wait a minute. This is actually telling a story. We didn't mean to do this. So we can't really take credit for being smart about this. It just accidentally happened. And even our producer was like, wow, this is pretty insane that you did this without knowing it. And I'm like, again, it was accidental, but that's how it turned out. And that's how we started spinning it, because it does tell a story from beginning to end.
You're currently on a break from the Black and Blue tour. You were out March 2nd through the 11th, and you head back out on the 28th in Maryland and New Jersey. You're out there with Sleep Signal. So is
Yes.
this your first tour out with the new band, and how's it going?
Yes. In March was I'm sorry. Last summer was our first tour together. It was our test tour. We went out with Smile Empty Soul and Tantric for about 32 shows back to back. We just wanted to make sure that everybody in the band could handle the road. Everybody's excited about the road, but yeah, okay, let's get out there first. And it was definitely a venture, should I say, because our tour bus hasn't moved in 2 years. So we just went full force and we took it out there, and we put all through the Midwest or down south of the West and Southwest, and the whole entire tour, the bus kept breaking down. The entire tour. There was one point the tire blew off of the bus and rolled back, hit our trailer, and drove past us as we were trying to control the bus from flipping over. And we got off the road, and the tire just like drove right past us. We were all like, "Did you just see that? Was that ours?" So once we got off the road, yeah, we had to cancel one show out of that tour because of that. But it was like every other day, a belt would break, or something would happen to where we would have to like spend time at a repair shop. Met a lot of friends at repair shops, and I have tons of business cards if anybody needs them when you go out, so I can hand them out to you. That was our first test, and it was a massive test for us because of the stress that we were. You're already under enough stress trying to make it from one show to the next, and you got 6 and 7 hour drives, and then your bus breaks down. It's like, man, this is insane. So that was a huge test for us. So coming into this year, we were like, all right, let's get the bus taken care of before we go anywhere else. Well, it took us about 2 months to get the bus correct. And then when we went out in March, it was like a breeze. It was like, that thing is a beast, and I'll never let that thing die. But March was a great run because we didn't have any issues with the bus. But it's kind of like, this is very strange to say this, but it's almost like we're starting over. But I've talked to a ton of bands, even friends of ours in like Nonpoint. Everyone feels like we're starting over. So this is good and bad, I guess. The good in it is we get a fresh start on things. The bad is you got to start climbing that ladder again. You get a different platform to stand on, but you're still climbing that ladder again. And I think that's an ongoing thing. I think after the pandemic, everyone feels like, oh, now we got to like really, really get out there and make an impact again. So, but it wasn't our first tour, but so far it was the easiest out of the ones we've been on.
You have a big festival appearance coming up, Rockfest 2023.
Absolutely. And we are super, super excited for that. And Godsmack is going to be the main headliner. We have done festivals before with Godsmack, so we're pretty excited. I don't know if the same tech guys are there with them, but I knew a lot of the guys that were teching for Godsmack. I'm sure Sully won't remember us, but that's okay. I'll reintroduce myself to him again. And it's going to be exciting because we did Rockfest 4 years ago for the first time, and we did the after party. And the after party, you pretty much go on at about 11, 12 o'clock at night. And there's always one national playing while you start. So we were concerned about that. We were like, man, this is probably not going to expect too many people. But as soon as we started playing, there were people like running down from like where the nationals were playing. And I was just like, whoa, this is kind of crazy. So 2 years later, we ended up opening the main stage at Rockfest. This year, we get an opportunity to play at a later time frame, which is fantastic. We go on at 1:45, so we're super, super excited about that. Rockfest is just amazing. It's an amazing festival. I mean, I know the staff there, which is probably the most incredible staff I've ever met. As soon as we roll in, they treat you like a rock star. They respect what you're doing, and and we respect what they're doing. It's a really, really, it's a cool experience, but it's different than what I think most bands are used to. Amazing festival. Cannot wait to get out there and play.
You've played these festivals in the past, and you've shared the stage with heavyweights of rock and heavy metal. Do you get to mingle with any of them besides the "Hey, Sully, hi"?
Yeah. Corey Taylor. We've heard a couple of different times with a go-kart when we were with them out on I think it was the Mayhem Festival, is when we did the Mayhem festivals. So that was really cool. Got a chance to hang out with David Draymond from Disturbed, and a few other guys from Disturbed too, I believe. I think it was John. John was there with us too, and that was a great moment. We were actually on the same stage in this moment when Blood had hit, which was their catapult to their tremendous success now. Congratulations to those guys. And Maria Brink and I she would walk her dog in the morning and I would run in the morning. So we kind of crossed paths many, many times. And I've finally actually had a moment to actually sit and speak with her. And she's a great person. And kudos to them for their success. But we were we were the opening slot to them when Blood was their big hit. So yeah, you get a lot of opportunities to, and if you're not a jerk, I mean, these guys are humans too. If you're not being a jerk, you'll get a chance to just hang out with them. I mean, a couple of years ago, I hung out with Tommy Vext, and we were both watching Phil Anselmo perform at Rockfest, and we were both standing next to each other, just jawing about the stuff, and we were watching him perform. And we're like, oh my God, this is so amazing! He is still putting on the same show that he has always put on, and it's pretty cool. Yeah. You definitely get an opportunity to hang out with these guys, and they're very cool. They're very, very cool. I mean, even at Rockfest, I think it was Corey Taylor's solo band that was playing, and Corey was watching. Don't remember who it was now. It was an older classic rock band, but he was a big fan of them. So I was sitting backstage, and I was just kind of on the ramp where the equipment was coming up, and Corey was coming down. And he was spinning a drumstick. He was like, dude, I just got this drumstick. And I was like, see, that's cool. That's really cool to see someone as huge as Corey is still be a fan.
So is Speed a nickname, or is that your real name?
My parents didn't like me. No, I'm just kidding. It is definitely a nickname, which I got from not drugs. Everyone's like, oh, so you did drugs, did you? I was like, no, I've never done drugs, and I don't really care to. I actually got it because I played semi-pro baseball, and I just happened to be the fastest guy in the league for 2 years. And then my team would always call me Speed, so it kind of stuck with me. I never thought about it as we moved on because I've never used my real name for anything. So it's always been even documented. It's documented as Speed. So I let it go, and I don't even remember who I really am anymore. I'm just kidding.
Did you get injured, or did you just not feel it anymore?
I got injured because I also started playing because of my speed. I kept playing football as well. I was a running back and a cornerback. On defense, I was corner, but on offense, I was a running back. And in one of our playoff games, I came up the middle, and when I came up the middle, the way the lineman fell and the defense fell on top of me, broke both of my ankles at the same time. So that was pretty much career ending, but that's kind of where the music came into play. So here I am. Now I'm doing music. So, and I love it. I guess that just wasn't my path, I guess, for my future. Playing sports just wasn't it, I guess.
Is Silvertongue the only band that you're involved in? I know a lot of guys today, they got their hands in several different projects.
Yeah, Silvertongue is the only thing that I do. And for good reasons, because it has turned into a business. It is no longer just a band. We've kind of made those switches. I made those switches probably a couple of years ago. And it's when you have a record label with you, which we've gone through too, it's a little easier because you have other people doing things for you. And then about a year and a half ago, I decided to go independent and walk away from the record labels, and nothing against the record labels. Record labels are great if that's what you want. But being independent, you get a lot more freedom with that. It's a lot harder to open doors, without a doubt. But I kind of enjoy this, but it makes you extremely, extremely busy. So if you're going to do that, and you're going to be prepared to go in, no sleep.
Absolutely. Well, those are all the questions I have for you today. Speed, the new single's out now. It's Integrity. It's by Silvertongue. Sounds great. I'm looking forward to what else you have coming out in the future.
Thank you. And we're going to be releasing something new, even newer, should I say, in probably late June. Be prepared for that one. We have a few more songs in the chamber, so we're ready to fire them off too.
Sounds great, man. And thanks for taking the time to come on the podcast.
Oh, man. Thank you so much for having me.
Once again, I want to thank Speed Vincent of Silvertongue for coming on the Rock is George podcast. Be sure to check out their latest single, Integrity, available now on all music streaming platforms. Take a listen to the single and the band's catalog while you're there. If you like what you hear, buy a physical copy of what's available. Support the artist. For all things Silvertongue, head over to their official website, silvertongue.com. That's Tung. I also want to thank Hadley Wolfram and Chipster PR for making this interview possible. You've been great. I've been George Dionne. I'll see you again soon.